The digital self. There will be the time. There will be the time face to meet the faces that you meet. By T.S. Eliot. The love song of J. Alfred Frackrock. Sincerity refers to exposure in public of what one feels privately. Authentic. An authentic person is one who takes action based on some internal standard and takes responsibility for this freely chosen action. The social world of a Western influenced society, like the Philippines, typically consists of three domains: family, school, neighborhood. Rosenberg, 1986, added a fourth domain which is the online life. Online life. The online life has definitely altered the dynamics of self-identity, especially for adolescents. I, me, myself, ID online identity. The self that is constructed online is generally called the digital self. Zhao 2005 analyzed the experience of online users, especially teenagers, have shown that the characteristics of digital self are oriented inward, narrative in nature, retractable, and multiplicable. Oriented inward, toward the world of thoughts and feelings because others cannot see the online user's overt attribute. Narrative in nature. It is narrative in nature because online users will only come to know the person primarily through what that the person tells them. Retractable. It is retractable because others are unable to link the online self-claims to the offline identities. Multiplicable. It is multiplicable because people can interact with one another in different domains of the online world at relatively the same time. People who able to present themselves online in manner that they want to, this process is called self-presentation. Achel and Jalil, 2011, found out that the students and non-students between 18 to 39 years old were more likely to disclose their interests online rather than their beliefs and feelings. The basic kind of people you interact with online are people you do not know at all, people you know both online and offline, people you know only online. People you do not know at all. Example, you need not be introduced to talk to strangers in a chat room or to read and comment on blog, an FB post or a tweet of someone you are not personally acquainted. People you know both online and offline. Many of the people you interact with in the digital world are those you both online and offline, although your familiarity with these people vary considerably. People you know only online. There are persons you interact with only online. Through frequent interactions, you get to know one another without meeting in person. Selective self-presentation and impression management. Self-presentation behavior is any behavior intended to create, modify, or maintain an impression of ourselves in the minds of others. Whenever we are attempting to lead people to think of us in a particular way, we are engaging in self-presentation. Why do people engage in self-presentation? Self-presentation helps facilitate social interaction, enables individuals to attain material and social rewards, and helps people privately construct desired identity. Generally, social media platforms are used for social browsing, social searching, communication, and impression management. Impression management is the attempt to control or influence any other people's perception. There are two main motives of attempting to manage the impressions of others. Instrumental. This motive is to basically gain rewards and increase one's self-esteem. Expressive. This motivation is about attempting to be in control of one's personal behavior and identity. It is a response to moral norms, expectations, or restriction, seeking to show others that he or she as a person is different. Impression management strategies: self-promotion, ingratiation, exemplification, intimidation, supplication. Self-promotion. According to Rosenfeld, self-promotion is a process in which a person actively says, thinks, or takes action or show his or her competence to an audience. While according to Giacalone and Rosenfeld, self-promotion often increases whenever there is an opportunity to openly impress someone of higher status. Ingratiation is the process by which someone tries to win the approval or acceptance of one another. Exemplification involves a strategic self-sacrifice so that observers may recognize the dedication. An exemplifier often wants other people to know how hard he/she has been working because of the need to advertise his/her behavior. Intimidation is a strategy that involves showing off authority, power, or potential to punish in order to be seen by observers as someone who could be dangerous. This is designed to increase the credibility of one's threats and in turn enhance the probability that the target will comply with the demand for agreement. Supplication is an approach where the individual exploits his/her weaknesses or shortcomings to receive help or benefits. Examples of these symptoms are anxiety, restlessness, irritability, depression, insomnia, headaches, poor concentration, and social isolation. Why makes us so addicted? Communication occurs during interaction, and our need to be connected and interact with others is universal and unavoidable. Communication is necessary in our unending search for sense and meaning to our world. One cannot not communicate. Watzlawick and the Plato Alto School, 1967. The social world is socially constructed through interaction between people. Roles, rules, categorization, stereotypes, and so on. Social networks have the power to amplify this human nature. They have broken barriers of distance and time, of presence and visibility. They expand the possibilities of sharing and playing identity.
Boundaries of the self online. Private versus public and individual versus social identity online. Private versus public. Social scientists have given very different definition of the concept of private and public. Understanding the difference between this concept will help in your study of the self. By Mr. 2020. Private. The prevalent definition among social psychologists is private refers to mental events in a person that are inherently unobservable by others. Public self. What social psychologists consider as public are behaviors that are open to the observation of other people. Summary of the various uses of the terms private and public. Private. Phenomenal acting only for self. Actor controls access to information regarding self, acting in the interest of a limited number of people. Public. Observable behavior. Acting as agent for others. Information about self not controlled by actor, and acting in the interest of the community. Possible advantages of making your online profile public. It facilitates open communication that could lead to better and faster information discovery and delivery. It allows open discussion on ideas and the posting of news, asking of questions, and sharing of links. It provides an opportunity to widen business contacts. It targets a wide audience, making it a useful and effective tool to increase your network of friends. If you are an entrepreneur, it improves business reputation and client base with minimal use of advertising. It helps expand market research, implement marketing campaigns, deliver communication, and direct interested people to specific websites. Possible risks. It is opens up the possibility for hackers to commit fraud and launch spam and virus attacks. It increases the risk of people falling prey to online scams that seems genuine, resulting in data or identity theft. It potentially results in negative comments and bashing. Some advantages of making your online profile private. You have control over viewers. You only connect with those you want to communicate with. Your online profile is protected from scammers and bashers. Disadvantages of a private profile. Your network is very limited, thus you enclose your doors to opportunities that social network can bring. Your engagement is very low. You do not get to meet interesting people with whom you can exchange ideas and learn from. If you are an entrepreneur, a private profile will not help grow business. Individual and social identity. Personal identity is the concept you develop about yourself that evolves over the course of your life. Characteristic of personal identity. The emphasis is on the individual. It is created through differences in personal characteristics when comparing the self with others. Social identity. Social identity is a person's sense who he or she is based on group memberships. They asserted than the groups. Example, social class, family, and so on, to which people belong to were an important source of pride and self-esteem. Characteristic of social identity. The emphasis is on what the person has in common with the members of his or her group. It is created based on similarities with others. Gender online and sexuality online.
Those The internet influences stereotypes, gender stereotypes existing in the offline environment, which are the root of inequality between men, women, and the LGBT, and the origin of gender violence are also present in the world.
The use of stereotypes is a manner in which people simplify the social world. Stereotyping is assuming that the characteristic and abilities of one person is also present in all members of the group.
What factors affect adolescent sexuality? Sexuality is development issue is present throughout life cycle, but it becomes especially salient during adolescence. What factors affect adolescent sexuality? Adolescents have to adjust to their developing sexuality, in particular their increased sexual drive, interest in sex, and the task of constructing their sexual selves. Factors that affect an adolescent sexuality: hormones, personality or temperament, social or environmental factors, media and the internet. Hormones. The sex organ gallias are stimulated to make sex hormones. A girl ovaries are stimulated to make the female hormone estrogen. A boy testicles are stimulated to make the male normal testosterone.
Example, there are introvert adolescents who face difficulty in approaching and responding.
Personality or temperament. Personality or temperament is an important psychological factor that also decides that attitude towards sexuality.
Social or environmental factors that facilitate sexual learning and decide the sexual attitude of the adolescent included. First, attitude of parents towards sexuality. Second, parenting style. Third, peer relationship. And lastly, cultural influences. Media and internet. In the recent decades, media coverage and the internet have grown worldwide exponentially. Access to them can easily literature related to sexuality, sexual crimes, and violence that affect their perception and attitudes towards sexuality. The material self or economic self. Once a culture becomes entirely advertising friendly, it ceases to be a culture at all. By Mark Crispin Miller.
I shop, therefore I am. I have, therefore I am. In the I shop, therefore I am trend report, we are looking into the world of consumer culture. Shopping has turned into a lifestyle. As a primary consumer, the issue is about what we buy and what we choose to invest. Consumption and production. Consumer is defined as use up to spend wastefully and to destroy. The definition shows that the consumption has a negative connotation. There is, however, a positive side to consumption that is often neglected. Conscious consumption. Consumers are often portrayed as victims, exploited by greedy companies. However, you should take note that every person has free will. Therefore, choices are important. As a consumer, free will comes with responsibility and obligation. Conscious consumption is about practicing responsible buying habits. Psychological or sociological culture. Consumption has become an addiction. Many people have forgotten there are things in life that can bring true and lasting happiness, such as spending time with family and friends. Identity and consumer culture. A person's identity is dynamic and context dependent. It is improved through communication with others and through different ways that a person interacts within the cultural atmosphere and social relations.
Factors that affect identity. Number 1. Social relation of power. Number 2. Symbolic image of the world.
Identity as we know it now derived is mainly from the work of psychologist Erikson in 1950s. Identity may refer to letter A social category defined by membership rules, characteristics, attributes, or expected behaviors. Letter B, socially distinguishing features that an individual takes pride in having. The main features and characters in consumer culture. Number 1, consumer culture is a culture of consumption. Number 2, consumer culture is the culture of market society. Number 3, consumer culture is universal and impersonal. Number 4, consumer culture identifies freedom with private choice in life. Number 5, consumer needs are insatiable and unlimited. Number 6, consumer culture is a privileged medium for building personal identity and status. Consumerism. Consumerism is one of the strongest forces affecting modern people's lives. The term consumerism does not simply mean the constant barrage and intrusion of ads in our lives. The problems of consumerism. Number 1, it is intrusive. Number 2, it is manipulative. Number 3, it cannot provide many of things that are important to us. Number 4, it restricts our choices in life. Number 5, it affects our worldviews and characters. Number 6, it is unsustainable. Avoid the trap. Consumerism is intrinsically woven into the fabric of modern society. Society needs a cultural shift to move away from the culture of consumerism. Exercise intellectual independence. Be aware of how consumerism controls your life. Try to defend yourself from unwanted external pressure. Ignore advertising, think for yourself. Question all information given to you and start looking for information yourself. Consume less, lives more. Stop and think about the influences of consumerism in your life. Then think about what really matters to you and how you want to live it. Strive to live the life you want, not how others think you ought to live.